a nice cup of delicious wassail, actually. I usually do hot tea or coffee when we hang out, but I thought it's kind of festive, so we'll go with some wassail and my cinnamon stick. And I was thinking it might need a little something extra on top. Why don't we just get that going here? Yep. Can't have enough of this stuff. I didn't used to like it, but I sure do now. That's really good. Welcome back to the channel. I am so happy you've been able to join me. I'm Kristen, for those of you who are new here, and I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I have Ehlers Danlos syndrome. We just kind of hang out over here, talk about mental health and chronic illness, a few other things like books or self-care, which kind of falls under mental health, self-care. Self-care kind of falls under mental health stuff, and chronic illness stuff. So we kind of like overlap it all and to make a big mishmash of fun times. I had a request recently to talk about some of my favorite books. And when do I not want to talk about books? So I'm really happy to be making this video and sharing it with you regarding some of my favorites. There may be a few in the stack that we have talked about before on a previous video, and I'll try to link that below so you can kind of check that out. This is kind of a blend of several different things, and I'm looking forward to talking about them with you. And let's just jump right into it. So, the first thing on the list, I will go through my kind of mental health awareness type books, and I'll start with the one that I've talked about the most on this channel, and it is Your Daily Rock. Guys, I can't recommend this enough. I've discussed it on many videos. I've read you some passages out of it, so please check this book out. If you've read it and you have an opinion on it, please leave it in the comments below and tell me what you think about it. I want to read you a short passage out of it, actually, because it's kind of appropriate for the channel here and kind of what we're doing. As my channel is named A Story Rewrite, I thought I would read this one. It says, "Let go of the old story." The quote at the top, because it's broken down, you have, let's see if it will focus. You have rocks on the top, these pebbles. It says, for the daily rock, you have a quote, you have the passage, and then the date at the bottom. The book is a day book of touchstones for busy lives. It's basically kind of a meditation book. It's just kind of straightforward mindfulness and awareness. So this says, let go of the old story. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. This is Eckhart Tolle. So if I'm butchering these names, please tell me in the comments how to pronounce it. An expert in rare and antiquarian books, my husband John is often invited to appraise people's book collections. I am interested already. And sometimes he has to wander through homes filled with old newspapers and magazines, piled so high he has to follow a small path between them, like hoarders, but pre-reality TV. Newspapers from the morning are rarely no longer even relevant by the same afternoon. He told me after one such visit. So it's really striking to go into someone's house and see decades worth of newspapers waiting to be read and clipped. So much weight, so much space taken up by old news, old stories. What is the weight of your old stories? Were you always described as temperamental as a child? So are you hanging on to that old story as an adult? You have the option to let go of those old stories and clear a path for new ones. Morning. So this will be your morning meditation in a sense. Write as many answers to this as you can. And it gives you a quote. I am blank. For example, I am a CEO. I am an only child. I am on antidepressants. I am sure I'm not worthy. Dive as deeply as you can. Sit with this list today. So that's a morning meditation, gives you a little exercise to do. The evening one is review that list. How many definitions of who you are might no longer be true? Which ones do you want to let go of? That is Let Go of the Old Story. I like it so much. Please check this out. Your Daily Rock. If I do this for everyone, this video is going to be way too long, so I'm going to try to run through some of these a little bit quicker. And by the same author, and we have discussed this book before, Life is a Verb. This book is absolutely wonderful. 37 Days to Wake Up, Be Mindful, and Live Intentionally. I really like this book. Fantastic pictures and images and quotes. Every page has a quote on it, an activity. Some of them have multiple. And it's sort of a furthering of mindfulness, but this one is more for action rather than contemplation and intrinsic processing. This is more of an extrinsic process. That's a thought. All right, so this one is fantastic. I like the back. It says, say yes. How can you live a yes rather than a yes but kind of life? Be generous. How can you give and receive something more valuable than money or things? Love more. How could adoration of yourself and others revolutionize your life? Trust yourself. How can you choose who you spend time with? Slow down. How can you pay attention and stand still in a world moving at warp speed? This is fantastic. Please check her out. She is wonderful. And she has some other books. I just don't have them, but I will definitely be in the market for the rest of them very soon. One of the reasons that I thought this book would be relevant to our channel is because with a chronic illness, there is a lot of downtime, as in sitting, laying, resting. And for me, I spend a lot of that time reading books. I am writing my dissertation right now. Most of you know this. You are so wonderful to ask me about it. Thank you. But when I'm not writing or doing research or crocheting, I do like to crochet, I don't really watch television very much. There's not really much on that I enjoy. But I do love to read so much. As you can tell, this is one of many bookshelf areas in my home that hold some of my treasures. This is a very enjoyable spot for me. I like to come in here and sit down and live with these multiple worlds behind me. So that is kind of why I did go ahead and choose to do this video, because I think it's very relevant to what can we do to fill our time when we can't be with others, when we can't be up or working, when we can't be doing something that we deem as productive. What can we do? Let's continue on with the next. I recently got this in the mail, and I have been reading it, and I think it's a wonderful book. The Dysautonomia Project. This is one of those books you want to share with your doctor, or with your healthcare team, with your caregivers, or those who give you support. It's really geared toward medical professionals, but also for patients. So there are many sections that are divided in this book. I have not completed reading it, but I do think it is noteworthy to take time for. There, in the table of contents, I'm not going to read any of this book to you, but I wanted to give you a kind of an understanding of what's in this. This book is by Kelly Freeman, David Goldstein, Charles Thompson, and there's a foreword by David Robertson, and most of them are doctors. So this is kind of a special collaboration that I think is definitely worth getting. 5 things to know. This is all talking about dysautonomia, obviously. About dysautonomias, assessments and diagnosis, managing dysautonomias, treatment options, join the Dysautonomia Project, and the appendices. So the reason I got this book is not just for myself because of POTS, but also because I have clients who, as an LPC, I have clients who have challenges such as POTS and other autonomic issues. And I thought not only could this be helpful to me, not only could this be helpful for you all as I share on YouTube, but also it could be helpful for my own clients, and it may provide answers that they are not being able to find anywhere else, or I may be able to be helpful through this collaboration for them. This is definitely a good one. All right, moving right along here. I do really like Brené Brown. I have not had the privilege of reading a ton of her work, but this book made a massive impact on my life and on my process. The Gifts of Imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. I cannot say enough about this and mental health and chronic illness. For most of so many people with a chronic illness, we die many deaths. So it is said that dancers die twice, in a sense. Before being a therapist and before being chronically ill, I was a dancer. I did a lot of fine art work, and I did a lot of movement, musicals, and so forth. And I had planned to do dance for life until I couldn't anymore, and then I planned to teach from there. That was hurried along. I went from performing to teaching. Then there came a point where I realized that I basically couldn't really teach anymore, at least as a job. So then I had to figure out what to do. That's where I am now, doing therapy and talking to you guys and teaching university and writing and. There are still options for me. It just looks very different, and new normals come along regularly. And this is a book about new normals. This is a book about who you imagined yourself to be became unrealized, and now you have to be someone you don't know, but someone you could get to know, and someone that's you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So A Guide to a Wholehearted Life. This book is fantastic. Buy it for yourself, buy it for your friends, buy it for your loved ones, buy it and give it out as Christmas gifts, birthday gifts, Tuesday gifts, whatever that looks like. This is wonderful. I very much enjoyed this. For those of you who do not know who Brené Brown is, she has a PhD, but she is a LMSW. I believe that's right. She is a writer and a research professor at the University of Houston, Grad School of Social Work. So she knows her business, and she's quite funny too. This is a wonderful book. Get it. It's a short read too. All right, now on to a super serious book that is not light reading at all as far as the emotions are concerned. This is by Bessel van der Kolk, and he is a doctor, MD. He is fantastic. I don't have the dust cover on this one because I got it at a thrift store, and I could not have been happier because these books are very expensive. The Body Keeps the Score. I can't even show you. The Body Keeps the Score. So there, I can show you that way. Dust cover, I don't even know what it looks like, so can't even tell you. This book is about how our body processes trauma, and essentially how trauma impacts our lives through our physical experience, our physical body, our brain, mind, and body in the healing of trauma. So this is more than just trauma memories, our limbic system versus our hippocampus, and how we deal with trauma. This has to do with how it is sublimated in our body, how it is processed through our mind, how it is dealt with in our brain, and so forth. So this is pretty heavy reading, but as I was asked for my favorite books, this is one of them. This book talks about the rediscovery of trauma. This is your brain on trauma, the minds of children, the imprint of trauma, paths to recovery. Many people have found that they have developed a chronic illness after a traumatic event. That is not unheard of. And there are many reasons for that, or there are many suspicions for that. So where there is a split idea on can trauma cause chronic illness, and does that mean it's all in your head? I am of the belief that it is not all in your head, but it definitely can impact your physical body, which then can further develop illnesses. So the answer is no, it's not in your head, and yes, it's in your body, and it all stinks. This is a wonderful book. It is a very heavy read, but again, I was asked for my favorites, and this is one of them. Mostly I treat trauma clients. My clients run a gamut of eating disorders, extreme anxiety disorders, trauma. I think that's about the gist of what I see most of my clients are women at the moment, not all of them, and my research is actually on loosely based on the rape culture in university campuses, but it's treating sexual assault survivors. I really enjoy working with trauma clients and helping them process through to the next season of life. But that said, I have found that most of my clients who have trauma in their background and trauma in their history, if you will, have chronic illnesses. For whatever reason, whatever the correlation is, there is a correlation of some sort. All right, next. This is not a devotional, but this book I've talked about on a video before. This is by Lysa TerKeurst, Uninvited. This book is phenomenal. I haven't read anything by Lysa TerKeurst that I did not enjoy. This book is a Christian book. It is based on essentially self-esteem and worth value, intrinsic value rather than productivity-based value. As a perfectionist, as a recovering perfectionist, as an attempted recovering perfectionist, this book really spoke to me. I have gone back to it lots of times. I share it with my clients when they're interested, but it's essentially helping you get to a place where you are living loved through accepting of the love of others that is offered to you. When you feel less than, when you feel left out, lonely, unworthy, and so forth, it helps you get to that place. She has written lots and lots of books kind of in the same vein. She really is a author for not just women, but I think she really targets women very well in this. I'll just read you a little short synopsis on the back of it. Stop feeling left out by believing that even when you are overlooked by others, you are handpicked by God. Change your tendency to either fall apart or control the actions of others by embracing God-honoring ways to process your hurt. Know exactly what to pray for the next 10 days to steady your soul and restore your confidence in the midst of rejection. Overcome the 2 core fears that feed your insecurities by understanding the secret of belonging. For those who have a Christian faith, this book is really a great purchase, a great buy. Uninvited by Lysa TerKeurst. I do like this book. I think with chronic illness, we find ourselves in a lot of those places, in a lot of the places with not feeling that we are enough because so much has to be canceled, so much has to be changed. People don't understand because they don't live the same life. I had a conversation with a friend last night who was talking about the realization that she is coming to of what my life must have been like for the last 10, now 12 years. But the first 10 years of really seeking diagnosis because I was having some adrenal insufficiency issues and they had to come from somewhere, POTS issues, and lots of things that had been there for a long time but had not been so complicated and challenging. And my friend was talking about how she heard me, she just had no idea. And honestly, I wasn't happy that she finally understood. I was actually more heartbroken because to have one more person understand what that's like is painful and tragic because she is experiencing a lot of medical gaslighting. Videos will be linked below. Check them out, please. She is experiencing ableism. She is experiencing disbelief by doctors, being pushed away, being pushed off, being told it's in her head, see a therapist, and so forth. And I know many of you relate to that. So again, this book, Uninvited, the book of The Gift of Imperfection, both of those really speak to that experience. And it's hard. It's really hard. Okay, just a few more. I'm going to get to the fun fiction books now and share with you a few of my favorites that are fantasy mostly, because most of these books, if they're not mental health related books, most of them are fantasy or poetry. I do have a few mystery books up here, but for the most part, I like fantasy, and I like to escape into different worlds and spend my time in a land where my chronic illness is not a thing. It's not present. My responsibilities to the mental health community are not present, and I am able to be very, very free, and I like that very much. This book that I want to talk about first is kind of not necessarily fantasy, but fantasy in a sense, because it is fiction in the sense that no one has had a discussion with a demon, but C.S. Lewis wrote a short little tiny book called the Screwtape Letters, and it is incredible. I read it all in one day. I could not put it down. It was a delicious read. So if you have not read this, you might want to consider it. It's a super short read for those who devour books like I do, but this book, phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. And if you are an audiobook reader, listener, it's on audiobook, and actually it's on YouTube. I will read you just a short little blurb about it. A masterpiece of satire, this classic has entertained and enlightened readers the world over with its sly and ironic portrayal of human life and foibles from the vantage point of Screwtape, a highly placed assistant to our Father Below. At once wildly comic, deadly serious, and striking original, C.S. Lewis gives us the correspondence of the worldly wise old devil to his nephew Wormwood, a novice demon in charge of securing the damnation of an ordinary young man. The Screwtape Letters is the most engaging account of temptation and triumph over it ever written. Screwtape Letters, great read. Not very long. Oh, not many left, I promise. We're almost there. 3 more. Okay, Pawn of Prophecy. This is an oldie but goodie. It is by David Eddings. It is a fantasy collection. If you like Tolkien, you will like this. It is a great book, but it is not, it is in the vein of Tolkien-esque writing, but it is not a ripoff of Tolkien, in my opinion. Some people think it is, but I just don't. I don't think so. And there are 8 or 10 books in this series, $2 or $3 a piece, and they're short reads, but they are so wonderful. Check that out. David Eddings' Pawn of Prophecy. The Belgariad, and that's the series name. All right, this one only has 2 in the series because the 3rd is coming out. It's a wonderful book if you like fantasy fiction. This book is King of Ashes. It is a story of a triumphant young man who had all odds against him. Check it out. It's great. The next book in the series, I think, is Queen of Storms. It's really wonderful. Lastly, the series I am currently reading, Sarah J. Maas and Era of Fire. This is the 3rd book in this series? Let me tell you, because the book is the Throne of Glass series, but yeah, this is the 3rd. And technically it would be the 4th if you count the prequel, which is the Assassin's Blade. But this is about a young lady whose life has been filled with tragedy and trauma and could not get worse. Yet somehow Moss continues to find ways to torture this young lady, but she continually rises above, and I find the triumphancy and the victory in this book to be just energizing and exciting, and it's a wonderful book about a female victor rather than the typical male heroes of the book world. So this is a wonderful one. I like big books. They last me a bit. And that's all. That is it. Thank you all for joining me. I am happy to have spent some time with you. What books are your favorites? Please leave them in the comments. Maybe I can find some new reading material. It is almost Christmas time, and I'm always looking for ways to spend gift cards that Santa leaves me. Let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. And also give this video a like, a thumbs up, subscribe, share. Thank you all for coming. See you next time.